like red flags, like you need 2 pieces of evidence.
Right.
Yeah. Same thing with Erica. No one is going to flip back to read your thesis statement.
Yeah, I completely agreed with all of your comments with Kiana's work about her ideas are very clear. Why do you think she didn't use the second piece of evidence?
I really don't know, actually. Because I'm like that's been the most consistent thing that I have reiterated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never have I ever said, oh my God, 1 piece of evidence. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Okay. So we got a pretty good sample. I hope I kept these in order for you. Pretty good sample of student work. So now let's just jot down. We've already kind of started talking about it. The trends that we saw in the work. Let's just start with trends, and then from there, we'll go into action steps. But purely, like, what did you see?
So students who didn't, for this particular question, if any part, clearly, like if any part of the bullet points weren't addressed, then they couldn't really get anything, I don't think higher than a 2 or really anything higher than and barely a 2. If any part of the bullet points weren't addressed. I think students who ended up in the 2 bucket had like unclear claims, or some of them felt like I'm reaching, or I'm like trying to grasp at the right idea. So I'm gonna put this in there, I'm gonna throw a little bit of that in there and hope that's really the answer. I think that's why the student scored 2, just grasping at different thing and not a focused claim. I think students with 3s and 4s, I think students with 3s, the reason why I wasn't a 4 was probably because of some part of their claim was inaccurate. Some part of it wasn't necessarily aligned to what the or their analysis, it wasn't necessarily aligned to what the text said. And 1s, I don't. Did we look at a 1?
No, not in that grouping. What about the evidence? What did you notice about the evidence that students chose?
I think the evidence evidence selection didn't seem to be a issue or a problem with most students. If they said that if they had a claim that it's better to eat healthy, then they use evidence from the text that showed the effects of not eating healthy, or they use statistics, which was really good. And then I think particularly with the second body paragraph, like when it evaluate how effectively the author supported his claim, I think most students struggled with this portion because of the word evaluate and like what that really means for them to do, or what that really means for them to be able to say about his argument.
So what were you seeing? What were they doing instead of actually evaluating? What was the struggle there?
Like we would evaluate, we're looking for them to say like, yes, the author supported his claim with what, and most of them weren't necessarily able to pin down the with what portion. So like, yes, he did a good job of supporting his ideas, but they're missing the with statistics from the USDA portion, or they're missing the research or the data, that portion. The with what was the most difficult part for them to pin down. And even when they said it, it was like in very unclear language.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, I think that's great.
Drawing at it, but not getting it.
That's definitely what I noticed just in looking at those few. And that is the toughest part, right? That is the toughest piece of this. So here's what I heard. Students with 2s had unclear or unfocused claims, they were reaching for the right idea, grasping, they just put a mix of ideas in there, hoping that they'd hit something. Students with 3s, but not a 4, had some part of the claim that was inaccurate or analysis that wasn't aligned to what the text said.
Mm-hmm.
Evidence selection across the board was strong. Students used statistics, which is good. And for the second body paragraph, students struggled with the evaluation and what that meant as a performance task. So yes, he supported his claim, but with what? They were unable to pin down the with what portion.
Mm-hmm.
So how did he do a good job of supporting his idea?
Mm-hmm.
So out of those areas, which do you think will be the highest leverage to hit
The with what?
the with what?
Because I mean, even though this is a specific type of question, but you like evaluate the how did the author support his claim, right? They'll see a variation of that, or like how did the author develop their central idea? How did the author develop this, or how did the author like the how portion? And that, I think that's a thing that needs to be reiterated. And I want to figure out or create a list of, I don't know, techniques or strategies that authors use in doing this.
I think that's a great idea.
And if I think that would be extremely helpful to be like, okay, I remember from the list, the use of, like, if an author uses statistics, like that is a purposeful tool in developing their ideas, their claims, their central idea, their whatever, their arguments. Or if the author uses, it just changes with every text, so it's just hard to create like a
That
equation. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Or to pin it down.
Great. So in terms of one next step, I think that's a great one. Creating a list of strategies that authors use to develop their ideas, including using statistics.
Mm-hmm.
I think including like an anecdote or a short little story, like to prove a point could be one.
Mm-hmm.
Another one.
Students always, like, the most common thing people they say is the author uses details.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Of course he does use
Right.
details, but like what purposeful types of details or whatever.
Like
Right?
why that instead of
This
a
type.
detail could be so many things. Instead of, if it's like an anecdote, why that story?
Mhm.
Why did they, out of all the stories and all of their experiences, why that one?
Mm-hmm.
Dive into that and explain it like clearly in your link.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a very strategic choice.
And it just sometimes it seems so like meta, like so big.
Mhm.
Like I remember they were reading this text about national parks, and it was like, how did what was the prompt? How did the author support his claim? The author's claim was that more people needed to go to national parks.
Mhm.
And the author kind of develops his claim by discussing what the purpose of, the author's claim was that more people need to visit national parks. And the way that the author brings that out is by discussing what the purpose of national parks are, which is to be a remembrance of, or like a piece of the past, right? And a way for people to experience the past, right? So then it's just like identifying, okay, the idea, they keep talking about the purpose of it, and that helps to show that people should come because that's why it was created.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think, ideally in a perfect world where we'd have more time, we'd be able to show them multiple examples like that.
Yeah.
But I think whether it's, Monday, Tuesday, however you can, incorporating those examples would be great.
Mm-hmm.
So
we have
next,
we have examples. I just don't know how to give them the formula to be like, all right,
right.
Look at the statistics. They're purposeful. They help to show blank. Or look at the author that keeps talking about the purpose. They show blank. Or the author uses this contradiction to show blank.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Those things are just hard for me to generate, and I want to give it to them so that they don't have to necessarily use details.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Using details is almost like a cop out. Yeah. Since there isn't a formula though, I think the best way to go about it is asking them to do what we are already asking them. Like, what do you see? What is here? What is happening? what is being repeated? Like going back to the main idea, like what is the main idea? How is that supported? Like looking at your gists, what do your gists say? Is it an anecdote, an anecdote, an anecdote? Well, the author uses anecdotes. Is it facts and information, you know, an explanation, facts and information? Well, then it's different facts, it's statistics. I think that is the first step and the first place to go. And since there isn't a formula and it's going to be different every time, I think asking them, what do you see here? What do your gists say? Is like the go-to. What did the author include? Is it a story and a fact? Well, great. Did they use a story and a fact to support it? I think is the logical place to go there, especially given our short amount of time. So one next step would be to create the list of strategies that authors use to develop those ideas. I'd say since we have such a short amount of time, I think that one action step is the smart place to go. We could come up with several, but given that we're just trying to target this for next week, I think that's a really smart one. In terms of the like implementing that, when are you thinking and how are you thinking? Since
Monday. It would have to. I'm thinking Monday would probably be the last. Gosh, and it would be the last time to kind of give them some new information.
Are you going to incorporate that into your current lesson? Like, is there a space for that, or do you need to revamp?
I think there's gonna needs to be a revamp. I don't really see us having time really to practice it, but I'm just thinking like if they at least have this idea, have this list of ways authors go about purposely supporting their ideas or developing their ideas, maybe that might be just a helpful tool.
Yeah, they can see it. Is that Monday? What was your plan for Monday? Do you have a network lesson, or is that?
No, I was going to do I was gonna use since we skipped 15 through 16, I was gonna use lesson 15 through 16, but have a family member have the plan.
Right. That's right. Okay.
Do that.
Great.
Do their response, and then they were like, "Oh, that's completely wrong," whatever.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect opportunity, and I don't know if there's a question like this that could easily lend itself. You could create a question, like even if they just with this create the claim, that's all they need. Like creating the claim, making that clear statement, that could be a way to spiral it in, because the evidence and if they can get the clear claim, the evidence will come. But I feel like having them go through the practice of creating that claim will be really important. Great, okay. So for next steps, I have creating the list of strategies that authors use to develop ideas, and then introducing the list to students on Monday by revamping Monday's lesson. And I'm gonna write, students will create the claim.
For